Hey, what's going on, guys? This is 5 Large Fries, and today we're going to take an in-depth look at this. This is the Xbox One Duke controller. It's an officially licensed Xbox product made by Hyperkin, and what makes this controller so special is that it was modeled on the original Xbox controller back when the Xbox first came out in 2001 if you're in the US, or if you're in the UK and other parts of the world, it came out in 2002. Now, I cannot wait to get my hands on this controller. It's definitely going to make me feel so nostalgic, remembering back when I played games like Halo 2 and other games on the original Xbox. So what we'll go ahead and do is we'll look at the box first of all, because the box in itself is very beautifully designed, and it shows off the controller in all its glory. So you have the front here, which talks about the guide button, which is the big Xbox logo in the middle. And it is an LED screen, which is pretty cool. And every time you press it, it animates the original load up animation from the Xbox, which I think is really cool. And of course, on the left and the right side of the box, you have the side profile of the controller. And then on the back, you have more details about the controller. Now, what's interesting about this is it also works on Windows 10, so you can use this controller to play games on your PC, which I think is really cool. Now, the one thing that you should note about this is it comes with a 9-foot detachable USB cable. So, while it looks like the controller could be wireless, it's not. It's a 100% wired controller. And I think this is partly due to Microsoft not letting out the license for their wireless technology, which is absolutely fine. So let's go ahead and unbox this controller and see what is inside. So taking off the lid, we have a special thank you, and there's some notable people on here, much like Aaron Greenberg and Phil Spencer, and of course the Xbox community themselves, because without these people and most of the people listed on here, this controller probably would never have come to existence. You then have the quick start guide, which is basically telling you how to start the controller, and it's pretty much as simple as plug and play at this point. And then we have the piece de resistance, the controller itself. And we take this out. This bad boy looks so good, and oh, does it feel amazing. It feels incredible. It is big, it's bulky, it's amazing for people like myself with very large hands, and this is incredible. I cannot wait to use this and play some games with it. So let's take a look at this controller in a little bit more depth. Now, there's a few noticeable differences compared to the original Xbox controller. The most noticeable is here on the side, you have the bumper buttons included, which obviously weren't there on the original Xbox. These are obviously mapped to the black and white buttons, which is really cool. So you can either use the bumper buttons or you can use the black and white ones for that true nostalgic effect. You also have no more memory card slot up the top, which also acted as the headset port for Xbox Live back in the day. And at the bottom here, we have a 3.5mm jack, so you can use your headsets on the Xbox One and things like that. And then here in the middle, it's not animated at the moment because it's turned off, but we'll show you that right now. And that is your guide button. So you press that and you get the animated startup effect of the original Xbox, and then it goes back to displaying the Xbox logo, which I think is really cool. And then of course down here where start and select would have been, you have the new, what they like to dub the hamburger button, and the two squares. I gotta be honest, who even remembers what they're called? I think it's like the view and options button or something. I'm not too sure. So let's go ahead and give this controller a playtest. I decided to use Halo 2 in the Master Chief Collection as our test subject, and I've got to say this controller really does hold up. It really holds its ground. The analog sticks took a little while to get used to their positioning, but after I did, it felt absolutely natural. The trigger buttons felt amazing to press down. They felt very responsive. I didn't use the bumper buttons. I did in fact use the black and white buttons. They again felt so natural to use straight away, coming from the fact that I played Halo 2 to death on the original Xbox. Now, the one issue that I have with this controller is the layout of the buttons. Now, obviously, throughout the years, the controller for Xbox and games in general have changed and adapted. So, whereas now you have the X, B, Y, A buttons a little bit further apart, these feel very close together, and when I was playing, I was hitting the B button when I was trying to jump, and when I was aiming, I was hitting multiple buttons at the same time with my thumb, which obviously you don't want to do, especially if you're playing games online. That's definitely going to be a hindrance. But that could just be the fact that I am used to playing modern controllers rather than going back to a more retro style, old school approach. Another issue that I have with this controller is the D-pad feels very junky. It is absolutely terrible. You can see here with the guide button, I'm pressing up and down with the D-pad, and it will just suddenly out of the blue start moving either to the right or to the left of that guide, which is not what I'm doing. I'm pressing exactly spot on the down button or the up button, and it just slides me right or left. It's very janky, which is an absolute shame because this controller had a lot of potential. However, the D-pad really lets this controller down. The button layout you can get used to after a while of using the controller, but the clumsiness of the D-pad is just something that cannot be ignored. It's something I can't get used to, and I feel that with the advances in technology, that they should have included a more modern, up-to-date D-pad on this controller, rather than sticking with the outdated 4-directional version. Now, another gripe that I had with this controller is the left and right bumper buttons. While they do work as intended, they almost feel very out of place on the Duke. When holding the controller in such a way that your fingers are covering both the trigger and the bumper button, it feels very uncomfortable, and it's a very uncomfortable position to game in. The bumper buttons feel very small, so at times you almost feel like they're not there. So for myself, I was more pushing on the top of the controller rather than the bumpers themselves. However, the black and white buttons are what you're buying this controller for. You're buying it for the nostalgia effect. So for the most part, in my playthrough at the very least, I found myself using these black and white buttons moreover than the bumper buttons. The white button is key mapped to the left bumper, while the black button is key mapped to the right bumper. So keep that in mind when you start playing with this controller. So let's talk about the price point. Now, in the UK, this is listed as £69.99 on Amazon. However, for some reason on the US store, it's listed as about $149, which is absolutely ridiculous. The recommended retail price of this in America is, again, $69.99 US dollars. So I don't understand the conversion rate there, but in the UK, we tend to get shafted like that with the prices. So it's come to be expected at this point. Now, is it worth that price? Definitely, I would say yes in the US, 100%, because $69.99 seems pretty cheap for what this is. Bearing in mind the D-pad is very clunky and, to be honest, not that great, it's definitely worth it. However, in the UK, it is very subjective. I would say, personally, in my eyes, yes, it is worth the £69. Purely because the nostalgia effect alone is just pretty euphoric, if I'm honest with you. It was such a blast from the past being able to play Halo 2 with a controller that was made for Halo 2. So yeah, in terms of a rating, what would I give this? I would definitely give this about a 6. Purely because of the D-pad is the main gripe of this controller. If it had a decent D-pad, I would definitely give this a 7, maybe even an 8. But because of that, I would definitely give it a 6. But that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button. It will help me out so much. Also, subscribe if you are new, because that helps me out even more. And until next time, I'll see you in the next video.